What do you say, everybody? It's time to talk Alabama football. This is Bama Insider. I'm Mick Gillespie, and we're going to take your calls. Tonight, we're going to talk to Tony Tsoukalas, our beat writer, about yesterday's Alabama and Auburn game, and really just an absolute pounding. Not a perfect game. But it was looking like it might be a perfect game for Alabama. Just about total domination for 4 quarters. But Alabama just took care of one set of revenges that they have on the docket, and then that sets us up for Alabama and LSU. So if you've got comments, hold those for right now. But get ready to call in, and I want to know what you thought about the game. Also, the world of college football. What is going on right now as far as the college football playoff is concerned? On Tuesday night, we will have an opportunity to talk about the updated college football playoff standings. But right now, Alabama has just absolutely dominated the voting in the Associated Press Top 25. Same with the coaches poll. It's Alabama 1 and everyone else. Notre Dame, though, getting a lot of respect. They won another big game this weekend at North Carolina, and they beat Clemson already. So you got Notre Dame. Ohio State's in some trouble right now because they might not have enough games to qualify. If they have one more game canceled and they've got Michigan and Michigan State, they're not going to have enough games to qualify for the playoff. And that would really open the door up for other teams. Clemson is at 4-8-1. I think everyone expects them to handle business next time around with Trevor Lawrence and Notre Dame. But then there's that 4th spot. And is it Texas A&M? They didn't look good in a win against LSU. Florida looked really good, but they've got to play Alabama at some point. And then there's Cincinnati and BYU. BYU was totally disrespected in the first college football playoff rankings. I think that will be readjusted. We had some teams fall out of the top 10, losses by Northwestern, who got off to a really good start. They were upset by Michigan State, and also somebody else that lost too. But anyway, you're looking at it right now where the field is starting to shrink, and if, say it one way or the other, if somehow Ohio State doesn't have enough games to play and it's canceled because of COVID, then all of a sudden it's just it really opens the door for a lot of these other teams like Texas A&M. That I've been saying it for weeks. Texas A&M should be ranked ahead of Florida, but Florida's a better team than them right now. And I know they lost to them head to head, and that's why Texas A&M is ranked ahead of them. But Oregon. Thank you. Pull her up here, Naomi. You nailed it. It was Oregon State. Right? People were talking about Oregon maybe sneaking in there, being that team that kind of gets into the 4th spot. They lost the Civil War. They lost the game in their state, a last-second touchdown, and so a lot of stuff going on. But I guess as I bring on the Bama Insider beat writer himself, Tony Tsoukalas, the biggest thing, Tony, is that Alabama right now is off to just a tremendous start. And even without Nick Saban, and I know a lot of you are wondering, is Nick Saban going to travel to LSU? I got a feeling he will, but I haven't announced that yet. I mean, he's got to be clear of COVID. But one way or the other, with or without Nick, this team is just playing great football.
Oh, it certainly is. I mean, it doesn't really seem like a team can stop them. I mean, maybe Florida in the SEC championship game, but even then, I really don't know who's going to slow down this Alabama offense. Auburn certainly couldn't have. On Saturday, Alabama, they pretty much rolled right through Auburn. Mac Jones, 5 touchdowns. Look, it's kind of interesting. The last 2 Iron Bowls in Bryant-Denny Stadium, Alabama's quarterback has passed for 5 touchdowns. So it's just kind of crazy. We saw Tua do it in 2018, and now we're seeing Mac do the same thing. And I think this offense is just as good as it was last year, just as good as it was the year before. It's got the weapons. Devontae Smith is a guy that just seems to go off every single week. And I actually put him in my Heisman candidate. I didn't like to put a receiver there, but on my Heisman watch, I put him at 5th, kind of behind the 4 quarterbacks. So a lot of options on this Alabama offense. Najee Harris too, as well. And then the defense is getting better as well, Mick.
Yeah. I mean, and you nailed it. I mean, like, the defense was absolutely torched when they played against Ole Miss? And before you answer that, I want to thank everyone for joining us here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel, and remind all of you guys to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate you being here with Tony Tsoukalas. I'm Mick Gillespie. The defense was torched by Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. Now, I get it, right? The Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin had they had the formula for Nick Saban, right? I mean, Lane practiced against his team constantly for years. They knew everything that Alabama was going to do. I don't know if they stole signs or not. It doesn't really matter. I mean, they just were great, and Alabama figured out a way to win the game, but the defense looked terrible. Since then, in the second half of that Georgia game and on, they have been a wrecking ball. And I got to tell you, that was a good Auburn team. They're not great, but they're good, but they weren't good on Saturday.
No, I mean, well, Alabama's defense has been doing a lot of this bend but don't break. You know, they're letting teams kind of drive in, but teams are having to settle for field goals, or Alabama will get a turnover. So that works. I mean, obviously there's room for improvement still with Alabama's defense, but you're starting to see some positive signs. They've held opponents under 3 yards a carry for the last 3 games. Now, granted, kind of there's some statistical things you got to look at. I know Kentucky lost like 37 yards on that field goal, and then Mississippi State doesn't really run the ball, but still you're seeing the running game improve. The passing game's improving. Look at a guy like Malachi Moore, who's really stepping up at that star role. Man, he's probably the best freshman defensive back in the nation right now. And then we're also starting to see Brian Branch develop into the kind of player that, we thought he was going to be. So the defensive backs are really starting to improve. And when you got guys already like Patrick Surtain and Josh Jobe holding it down on the perimeter, the future's bright if it continues this way.
Yeah, but the guy that really stood out was, and kind of flipping back to offense, but really just, it seems like you go to these Iron Bowl games and someone has a magical night, right? Derrick Henry ran over Auburn down there. I mean, it was one of the most amazing nights I've ever seen anyone have. Last year, it was Jalen Waddle. Alabama didn't win, but he had a huge day. You kind of touched on it. Devontae Smith had a game against the Auburn Tigers that's going to go down as kind of one of the greatest performances in the history of the rivalry, to me anyway.
I mean, yeah, but like it's like I said, it just seems like Alabama's been putting up those kind of games. I mean, obviously last year wasn't the best, but the year before you saw 6 touchdowns from Tua. I thought that was going to be the best Iron Bowl in a while. Then you saw 5 touchdowns from Mac Jones and 170 yards from Devontae Smith. I mean, heck, even Najee Harris had 96 yards and a touchdown, and we're not even mentioning him. So. Yeah, if this game's played in Bryant-Denny, it usually, at least in the last few years, it's meant that Alabama's putting up some big points.
Yeah, appreciate the super chat from Tony. The defense rocked it yesterday. Love the show and all the content. Roll Tide from Texas. Yeah, I'm telling you right now, first off, we really appreciate all you guys that are on here and the comments. Let's just keep it fun and in good spirits. But at the same time, we really love all of you guys making our show what it is. And so we appreciate the interaction.
Also, big up to Texas, Texas native right here as well. So,
all right, yeah. A lot of Alabama, like we cover recruiting like no one else. Alabama has just been dipping into Texas a lot more than they used to. And I think a big part of that's Nick Saban, but also that this program has just gotten national, in the way that they can go in there and get players.
Definitely. I mean, they're getting them from everywhere across the nation. You're starting to see kids from California come in. So, just there's not, if you're a star athlete on Alabama's going to find you and it's going to bring you into its program, and it's probably going to turn you into an NFL player as well.
Well, with all that said, I'm excited because I wanted to see this matchup. And guess what? We get to see the matchup. Alabama against LSU. We came out Friday, and that's when the powers that be said, "Hey, we're doing it. We're going to have Alabama and LSU," and that makes this a lot different. Normally, the Iron Bowl happens, and the next game is the SEC championship, right? But not this year. Now it's all of a sudden off to Baton Rouge to play the Tigers. and LSU with another lackluster performance against Texas A&M. They lost 20-7. And then on top of that, Terrence Marshall, their best receiver, just decided to opt out right before the Alabama game. See you guys later. Bye. Good having fun with you. I mean, that to me tells a lot about the situation down there.
Yeah, Mick, I mean, I know you're super excited for this game, and I know a lot of Alabama fans are excited for this game, and they should be, because Alabama is probably just going to steamroll LSU. But as far as a actual game, and this game being competitive and being a quality football game, I do not expect it to be that. I think you've got an Alabama team that is just rearing on all cylinders, and an LSU team that is hanging on by a thread. It just lost its best offensive player. All the motivations on Alabama's side. I mean, this is going to get ugly, in my opinion. It was already going to get ugly. The longer in the season it waited, it was going to get uglier and uglier. I think LSU's done as a team. You saw it from Terrence Marshall. I wouldn't be surprised if there's people that are going to be playing on Saturday that are just mentally checked out. I really, if this game's within 3 touchdowns, I'll be shocked. I think it's going to be really ugly. I think it's going to be a great, Heisman kind of campaign stocking stuffer for Mac Jones. And, I know that's a lot of rat poison, but I just, like, out of all the games that Alabama's played in recent weeks, this one stands out as, like, this one's just going to get ugly.
Tony Tsoukalis, the beat writer for Bama Insider, covers Alabama, is my guest. We're going to take your calls here shortly, 205-850-0883. So call in, and we're just about to get there. But Tony, before we let you go for the night, I want to play you this piece of audio and kind of get you to comment on it. Sure, of course, yeah. This is Ed Orgeron, and he's going to discuss his thoughts on beating Alabama last year.
I think I know what's coming.
Right in the middle of the field. Everybody. Hey, we've been waiting for this moment, man. Let's go. Right here in the middle of the damn field. Let's bring it down. Tigers on 3. Hell yeah. Because this is our house from now on. Yes, sir. Tigers on 3. 1, 2, 3.
He said it's their house from now on. And he had some other comments, Tony, in the locker room that were kind of accidentally released last year. I got a feeling that this is our second LSU week now, that there's going to be a lot of that. And maybe the other clip that he said, Roll Tide you on, obviously maybe he didn't want that one out, but I got a feeling that's going to play a lot this week for the team.
Yeah, I mean, well, when you look at it, he said, this is our house. Well, Tiger Stadium for Alabama, that's been their house. LSU hasn't scored a point against Alabama in its own stadium since 2014. Back-to-back shutouts for Alabama in Tiger Stadium. So, Nick Saban can probably say the same thing about with the role reversal. And look, that game stopped a streak for Alabama. It was a big win for LSU, and they were having a magical season. So you kind of understand, getting emotional, getting excited about that win. It was a big win for him. I mean, they finally beat Alabama, something that he'd been trying to do. And hey, look, he turned it into a national championship. But I think that, he's going to have to kind of, we saw how mad that Alabama got over. I don't even know if it was a slight from Bo Nix. I don't even know if Bo Nix was actually meaning to insult Mac Jones when he, mentioned the word manager or managing in his evaluation of Mac Jones. And you saw how Alabama reacted to that. This is quite a bit. This is a few steps up from that. I'm sure Alabama's going to use this as bulletin board material. And I think that, that video will circulate. I think the one with the more profanity, that one will circulate as well. And I like I said, I think this one's going to get ugly. I just think that this is a game Alabama wants, and they probably don't want to play it just because it's meaningless. But now that they have to play it, I think that they're going to want to prove a point.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess to me, it's just like you had that year, and no one's going to take that away from LSU. They were one of the best teams ever last year, but it wasn't like they came in and beat Alabama up, and down the field, it was a track meet that they won. And there was a couple of bad mistakes in the first half by Tua, but they couldn't shake Alabama, and then to kind of, do all that talking afterwards. I'm not surprised that, that things have kind of fallen off for them. They had a coach last year in Joe Brady that really should be the head coach to me. I mean, he's the one that came up with the offense. He bolted town with Joe Burrow and half of the team. And what's phenomenal that Alabama and Nick Saban have been able to do is that, first off, Alabama doesn't really talk much. It's not kind of part of our culture. Like you hand the football back to the official and act like you've been there before. We're not tearing down goalposts and all that kind of stuff, or Alabama isn't. But to have that season and to kind of rub it in everybody's face, you knew that there was a chance to have this game. And I just think that Alabama is I feel like if you're Alabama, the other part of it that really bothered a lot of people, Tony, was when LSU's players ran down to the Alabama recruiting section and were taunting all of the recruits, like, hey, these guys this isn't the program anymore. It's all about us. Very classless. And now the rubber meets the road. You know what? And next Saturday we'll be down at Tiger Stadium for a night game where it's so scary to play at night at Baton Rouge, and we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah, it'll be different, because it will be a less full Tiger Stadium. I think part of, the allure of Tiger Stadium is that roaring purple and gold. And, this is one of those cathedrals that, same with Bryant-Denny. It's kind of sad to see it, a quarter of the way full, but it's still a magical place. And I think, having that night game there will be a neat setting for this game. And there's definitely going to be a lot of excitement, even if it's not going to be close. There'll be some excitement surrounding this one.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, I'm about to get to the phone line. So if you guys are ready to talk, we want to get your thoughts on this football game, give us a call, 205-850-0883. Tony, anything else before we bid you farewell?
No, just looking forward to this, to this week, to the rest of the season. Look, like I said, this one could be a high-scoring game for Alabama. And look, there's a lot of records on the line. So that's something to watch out for this week too, is, that getting that game back on the schedule, that opens up the possibilities for Devontae Smith to break some records, for Mac Jones, Najee Harris. I think, some of those records that maybe you thought, they're going to take a hit because they only have a 9-game schedule. Well, that extra game is now back on board, and that's kind of one of the things I'm monitoring for the rest of the season.
What can we read? You got anything new up on the site?
Oh, definitely. Well, I just came out with a Heisman watch this afternoon. Kind of like I said, Mac Jones. It's really Mac Jones and Kyle Trask as your two main candidates, but also there's Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. I'm not sure if Justin Fields is still really in it. And then, what? I also threw in Devontae Smith because I think if he keeps on up at this pace, who's to say he can't sneak in there? I really think it's going to go to a quarterback, but definitely check that out. I broke down each candidate and kind of where they are and an outlook for each. We have our what we learned from the game yesterday, and then tomorrow morning we'll have our Monday morning quarterback as well. So we'll kind of break down the good, bad, and different from the Iron Bowl. Awesome.
Well, thanks, Tony. And keep up the good work. And remember, tomorrow night, we got Monday night quarterback.
Right.
And that's where we talk about everything going on in the world of college football. So it'll be another day in. But looking forward to having you on that show. And keep up the good work. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
All right. That's Tony Tsoukalas. And you can read his work anytime you want at BamaInsider and the BamaInsider site. All right, let's take your calls. Tony, I'm going to take you out, and I'm going to put Coach O back in there. How about that for you guys out there? And I'm going to go to the call line and crank it up. How's it going? Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Hey, it's Parker from Pensacola, Florida. How y'all doing?
Hey, what's up, man? What's up, Parker? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Just found out I got to work a double on Saturday, so that means I got to miss part of that Bama LSU game. But I'm looking forward to it. My score prediction, I'm going to say 42-3.
Alabama over LSU?
Maybe okay. Let me rephrase that. Yeah, Alabama LSU. I'm going to say 62-3. 62-3.
Wow. Hey, look, they could have
gonna-
gotten Auburn close to that had Brian Robinson not fumbled there in the fourth quarter.
I mean, I'm so glad that we were able to get that game back on the schedule. But real quick, have we clinched the SEC title?
Not yet.
With that win over Auburn?
Nope.
Not yet?
Because right now, mathematically, if Texas A&M had lost to LSU, yes. So one more win for Alabama, this would be it. If they beat LSU this week, then they're going to Atlanta for sure.
And then, so let me just ask a what-if question.
Okay.
I like the what-if question. All right, say Alabama gets a huge win this week to LSU, and then we lose a close one to Florida. Do you see you don't see Alabama dropping out of the top 4, do you?
I don't look. That's why the Ohio State game's so interesting to me. If Ohio State has one more game canceled, that 5 games isn't getting them into their league championship, and it's not getting them into the playoff. So that all of a sudden opens up another spot. I think if Alabama lost a close game to Florida, they have a very good chance of getting in as the number 4 seed. And I'm guessing if Florida beat Alabama, it would be close. So I think Alabama has a good shot if they win out of getting into the playoff. But I hate leaving it up to chance. You know, like if I was them, I wouldn't want to do that. Obviously, Clemson's got a loss, and Alabama's loss would be pretty good if they lost to Florida because that's a good football team. But would
that not be a
What's that, Parker?
Wouldn't it be cool to see another Clemson Notre Dame game and then Notre Dame beat them with Trevor Lawrence? Would that not be insane?
Yeah. What if I mean, we're getting into a lot of what ifs, and I've got to get back into taking some other calls. But I'm going to say this before I let you go tonight. And by the way, you know, I'm real close to you over here in Fairhope, so we're on the other side of the bay here. But what if Notre Dame lost to Clemson, they both made it, and then they played again in the college football playoff? Could that happen? I mean, would that be enough Notre Dame and Clemson games this year?
Oh my God, that would not be. That would just be crazy. But glad to see Nick Saban's doing good, and love y'all show, and y'all have a great day and a great evening, and always roll Tide.
All right, Parker. Thanks, man. Roll Tide. Let me go right back to the phone lines again, and I'm going to bring in one of the great callers here. And you guys all are awesome, man. I appreciate talking to all of you guys. This is Jarek from Buffalo. Roll Tide, man. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. What's going on, Mick? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I mean, like I know that some of us are a little worried about playing this football game, but I'm not one of them. I wanted to play this game. I mean, I know that it's anytime you play, you take a chance of someone getting hurt, but this is one of those games that I think you got to win if you're Alabama, because when someone comes into your house and says this is our house, then let's go.
Yeah, it's like these players want this, and you know you don't think Dylan Moses, who's from Baton Rouge, who literally lives about 30 minutes away from the stadium, you don't think he wants to play that game, and you don't think he's saying to himself, if I just would have played in that game, I could have had a huge impact, and maybe we could have won this game. Guys like Devontae Smith, Fedarian Mathis, Christopher Allen, these are Baton Rouge natives. Christian Harris, these guys want LSU. They want revenge. You look at the LSU fan base. I mean, listen, these guys have been talking hot. They've been talking crap. We're not going to use the explicit. We're not going to use the words, but they've been talking for a while, for an entire year, about beating us in our house, and that they own Tuscaloosa, and then they won the SEC National Championship. I mean, enough is enough. Even to this day when they're losing, just enough is enough. This is something that I get that fans are scared for our players, but no, Bama wants this game. Bama wants this game. I want this game. You want this game. This game has to happen. We got to take care of the Tigers, because I'm sorry, dealing with this for another 365 days of LSU fans saying that we still own Alabama and stuff. I'm not hearing that.
Oh, and you know what'll happen too. I mean, if we don't play, they're going to be like, yeah, they would have beat us. You know what I mean? Like that. I mean, think of the gall of them. Last year, they They won, and they had a good team. They had a great team. They had a special team. It all came together for them, and they wrestled a win away from Alabama in a game where Tua fumbled the football, which what should have been maybe a touchdown, or we would have scored a touchdown because it wasn't like LSU played that much defense either. And then he threw that pick six right at the end of the first half. If he doesn't do those two things, and I know there's a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas in there, but if he doesn't, normally Tua didn't make those type of mistakes. It's a different game. I'm not saying Alabama wins. It's just a different game. And they might have won, but it wasn't like LSU came in and put a whooping on Alabama. And let me pull the card up again because I want to show you what a whooping looks like, because there's been a lot of whoopings in this series lately, but none of them have been from LSU. But if you would have just seen that one game, you would have been like, oh, these guys, they own Alabama. You would think that.
Oh my God. That was arguably one of Alabama's worst games. Like, if you actually look at that, it was one of Alabama's worst games. And the muff punt would set LSU up in phenomenal field position, literally inside our red zone to score a touchdown. I mean, nothing went our way, and yet it was still a close game. Bama was a possession away from winning that football game. So yeah, I give it to LSU. They won that game, but again, Nick, that ends. That ends next week, Saturday, in Baton Rouge, a place that we own. The fact that we've owned Baton Rouge, we haven't lost there since 2010. So yeah, that's a place that we truly own. But just talking about this game, Mick, real quick, guys. I mean, there's really nothing you can say. I mean, their offensive line it's awful. It's pitiful. They have no communication. They've lost confidence. At all. Their run game has kind of just depleted. They're suffering with injuries. The receivers they're too young. It's a lot of freshmen, sophomores, and they have a lot of huge upside. But Terrence Marshall, Terrence Marshall, Eric Gilbert, which are their two best receivers. Eric Gilbert, they couldn't get him the football, and then Terrence Marshall, he quit. I mean, people can say what they like, but he quit on the football team. And then defensively,
how about that too? By the way, just hold it right there. You, when your best player leaves the team before the biggest game of the season, what does that tell you?
It's so dysfunctional. And Scott Lenningham, man, it's awful over there. I mean, it's the offense is just too complex. They can't figure out their quarterback situation. TJ Finley and Max Johnson. I mean, it's two freshman quarterbacks. And how can you deal with that? Two freshman quarterbacks that you're rotating on a series basis. Like that's not going to help develop a quarterback. If I was Ed Orgeron, I would just stick with Finley because I think he has more potential than Max does. But that's just, how do you rotate two freshman quarterbacks in the SEC conference? It just doesn't make any sense to me at all. And then it's funny because their best players, which is Micah Bakersville and I forgot some of their other players on the defensive line, they didn't start them until the last couple of weeks when those guys were the players that were dominating practice for LSU all weekend. For some reason, Ed Orgeron excuse is, well, they're too young. We had some other guys that we like better because of their leadership. And it's got to be frustrating if you're an LSU fan that you're not even playing your best players. I don't know what the issue is with Ed Orgeron and LSU over there, but I don't know. It seems like to me that as soon as Alabama smacks LSU, there's going to be an excuse that all our players are gone, all our players left. We didn't want to play our best player. We didn't want to. It's like they're saving them for next year, where the excuse is going to be, LSU is going to set up this type of this huge football game and saying, here's our best players when we're potentially a top 5 team, and here's Alabama's players in Tuscaloosa. And I can already see it now. But no, this is going to be a smackdown. I don't care what LSU's excuse is. We're going to go in there. We're going to smack them. Yeah,
I agree. Look, I'm with you. And I'm going to tell you right now, I mean, I'm glad that they're playing this game because, I mean, you're already cut off 2 games that you would have normally played, right? You play 12, instead they're playing 10. And then you start eliminating the other games. Every time they don't play these games, they're missing out on the revenue that funds these schools, right? That funds all the sports, that funds everything that we get to do. And the fact that we have so much support with all these programs, it's just important to play them anyway. But I mean, I don't know. I love when Alabama and LSU play. I like going down there. Their fans are obnoxiously fun. Like it's a good rivalry. When we got Nick Saban, they became kind of angry, and they've won some they've won some championships. So this is the second one they've won since Alabama got Nick Saban. Yeah. Remember, Les Miles got one, and then they got one last year with Ed O. So it's not like they've been a bad program. They probably would have won more had Nick Saban not been in here, because he's chomped them off. I mean, they would have won them one that, what was it, 2012 in the Dome when they didn't score. No one else would have beat them. And then there's some other years in there too where they didn't get to the SEC championship game because they got Alabama'd. But they're a fun program. I just thought last year was I played that video and I've talked about it. I just think that when you got somebody like that that's on your schedule, if you back it up, look, if they beat Alabama on Saturday, what am I going to say? Hey, you guys, obviously, it's you're not cocky if you can back it up. So back it up. That's what I want to see. Yeah. I don't think it'll happen.
Oh, I'm sorry. What'd you say, Vic?
No, I just said I don't think it's going to happen. But look, that's why you play the game. I don't want this game not to happen and have to wait until next year. I want it right now, and then we'll see them again in Tuscaloosa next year.
Yeah, you just know you're just going to hear the excuse. It's like it's coming. But when we try to use our excuse that last year was arguably last year was the youngest team that Nick Saban ever had. LSU fans don't want to hear it, but then this year goes around, and when Alabama puts the smackdown on them, they're going to be like, "Well, this is our youngest team." Well, what the heck? Our youngest team put up 11 wins and almost made it to the college football playoffs, and only lost by a combined 5 points, while your youngest team has been completely dethroned. Listen, LSU, everything went right for them last year, and I always gave that championship team credit because they had their entire offensive line back, you had your entire receiving core back, you had your entire defense back. You had the most returning starters in the NFL with your entire coaching staff, and then you brought in Joe Brady, who if you look at the Carolina Panthers, they're a top 5 offense, including in the passing game of the NFL.
That's right.
So everything went their way last year, and that's credit. It's one of the greatest championship teams of all time. But let's not act like LSU after that year was going to have a consistent dynasty. Like, that's the one thing that Ed Orgeron was confident about, that the entire coaching staff was confident about, the program and the fans were confident about, that they were going to form a dynasty after that. And that's why Nick, I want this game to happen so badly. I really do, because I wanted to end. I want to put an end to the dynasty nonsense, to the crap, because I'm telling you, after this game, Mick, this is going to be huge for Alabama recruiting. You don't think Sage Ryan is going to look at this game and going to be like, maybe I don't know. I don't like how these players, there's a lot of young players that are playing for LSU, but they're not being properly developed. Bo Pelini and Ed Orgeron, they're clashing. You look at Scott Linehan, he's clashing. There's not any chemistry there. The players are not developing. Jacoby Stevens was a projected first round pick, and now he's not even projected. He's not even a projected draft pick. And that's because of the coaching.
Right.
So these recruits, these players, they pay attention to that stuff. And when they see what's going to happen on Saturday, I'm telling you, guys like Mason Smith, guys like Brian Thomas, guys like Sage Ryan, those guys are definitely going to be having a second opinion to potentially go into Alabama.
Yeah. Well, look, and thanks for the call, Jarek. You're awesome, man. Appreciate it. Anytime I'm doing a show, make sure you get time to call in. I love talking to you.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to,
no problem.
All right, buddy. See you next time. Thanks.
Yep.
And I'm going to say this too. Jarek brings up some great points about the recruiting aspect of this. If I'm recruiting against LSU after the game on Saturday, I'm saying, look, how many guys have opted out of Alabama? How many star players left? Even if we had a year, and Alabama hasn't had a year like that in a long time. Even if it wasn't a great year. I don't ever remember anything like this. So just looking at the guys that are opting out, including Terrence Marshall, like before the biggest game of the year. And I get it. He's going to be in the draft and he's going to make a lot of money. But it kind of tells me something else about the culture there. You got all the allegations that were written up in the newspaper of some other stuff off the field. They've got some issues. And, I'm curious to see what happens to LSU's program. But anyway, look. thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. This is Bama Insider, YouTube TV, 205-850-0883. I'll tell you what, it's going to be tough to come back after a call that was as good as Jarek's, but I'm going to do it right now and bring on Robert from Mobile. And we'll talk some football with Robert. And I'm going to get to your calls. So hang on. If you're behind Robert, we're going to talk to you, and we're going to do this thing. Robert, man, roll tide. How you doing?
Hey, man. How's it going?
Good.
Hey. I guess I think it's going to be the first time the line on the LSU-Alabama game is going to be 30 points. I don't think that's ever happened before in the history of this game we played with LSU. But I think the line's got to be 30 points, especially after that pathetic performance last night by LSU. I think Texas A&M, bad at Kellen Mond showed up hard yesterday, and they still couldn't do anything with Texas A&M. So it'll be Mac Jones could play half strength and still he had to get over 30 points on that team. So it's going to be no contest. I mean, I'm at least worried about that game. So it's about this Auburn game. I knew again you get the revenge factor, and like you and if you keep playing what Orgeron said, you know Nick Saban's still playing what Orgeron says.
Do you like when I play
and
that?
all of that?
Do you like when I play that?
Oh, absolutely. Keep it up. Play it every chance you get.
Robert, you want to watch it with me real quick?
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead, buddy.
Let's play it one more time. I mean, look, you're going to come in and you're going to do this. We're going to watch it. We're going to,
Right in the middle of the field. Everybody. Hey, we've been waiting for this moment, man. Let's go. Right here in the middle of the damn field. Let's bring it down. Tigers on 3, baby. Yeah. Because this is our house from now on. Yes, sir. Tigers on 3. 1, 2, 3. Tigers!
Yeah, everybody was feeling good back then. Really good.
Yeah. And like you said, it's not as if, you have been boat raced by Alabama in your own place for the last several games. But you're going to come here saying it's your house. Like the previous caller said, dude, you barely won. Tua gave you 2 gifts, and you still barely won. Yeah. So I disagree with you on those 2 turnovers by Tua cost again. Those 2 turnovers did cost us that game. Because Joe Burrows, of course, that's an offense that your offense cannot give them any gifts at all, any help at all. So also, if you do, then no defense can hold them. And so with those 2 turnovers did. Like I didn't blame Mac Jones turnovers. I said it shouldn't have cost us because Bo Nix is a mediocre quarterback. Okay, using with a mediocre quarterback, you get Bo Nix should have got treated last year like he got treated this year by Alabama's defense. If it's up to somewhat of his usual standard. Okay, great. Even if we give you 2 pick sixes, you're not getting 30 points. Even with us giving you 2 pick sixes, you still aren't getting 30 points. Now, Joe Burrows, you can't give him 2 turnovers in a game. Your offense can't give him 2 turnovers.
Right.
So, now you are begging to get your defense beat. But even with all that, if we don't give you 2 turnovers, you barely win. So, like you said, you didn't come in here and just run us out the building.
Right.
We helped you out, and you still barely won.
Yeah.
So calm down, man.
I mean, I want to I'm going to find the other graphic here. This is the last 5 times Alabama's been in Baton Rouge, right? There it is. Okay. And then I want to remind you guys of this too. Now, when I was in school, I unfortunately I was there when Alabama stunk and they were losing all these records that they had. They had one where they didn't lose in Baton Rouge from 1969 with Bear Bryant until Mike DuBose in 2000, and I think it was 2001 when Mike DuBose was up against Nick Saban. They did not lose one time in LSU. And I don't ever remember seeing a video of Bear Bryant or Ray Perkins or Bill Curry or Gene Stallings ever going on the middle of Tiger Field and yelling something like, "This is our house." I have never seen Nick Saban do that. And any of the other coaches that kept that streak alive, Dennis Franchione might have won there. I can't remember. But to have your head coach go out there and talk like that, I mean, and then the one in the locker room is the one that really put me over the hump. Them and that and the kids running down and trying to, taunt the recruits that were in town, It's just like, that's why I want this game to happen. I just want to see, look, because I'll tell you, Robert, and I said this before, if LSU beats Alabama like they said they were going to do, then, I'm going to have to come on here and eat a big pile of a crow pie, and I'll do it. I'll eat the crow. Hey, look, if LSU wins, I'll wear LSU. I'll paint my face purple and gold or whatever their colors are.
There's a better chance the Citadel could beat Alabama right now versus LSU. It's not going to happen. Oh, you said the best receiver is jumped ship on him already too?
Yeah,
you said that happened?
Yeah. He had over 100 yards of offense yesterday. Terrence Marshall, he's really good. And he's projected to be maybe the 24th best pick in the draft and the 4th receiver. And he said, you know what, I'm out, and I mean, here, let me give you a comparison here. And then you guys chew on this, and I want you guys to call in. I'm going to get to your calls at 205-850-0883. And so I'm hanging on with you guys. We're going to talk tonight. So don't think that if you wait on hold that I'm not going to get to you. We got their best receiver healthy, breaking off before the biggest game of the season. And Alabama and LSU in the last 15 years has been the biggest game in the SEC every year, right? That's them. Now, we got a guy who broke his ankle in Tennessee, and he's doing everything he can, and he's a higher pick than Marshall. This guy's doing everything he can to get healthy so he can play for his team this year. That's crazy. That shows you the difference in the team. Although I was hoping Texas A&M would really put a stomping on LSU to get them like what they are now. But it looks like they didn't have to really stomp them because, again, bad Kellen Mond showed up last night, so they didn't stomp them as well as they could have. And LSU still checked out. So, right.
So they already checked out with a mediocre beat. And so I got to no blame the guy for not wanting to, because right now your draft stock is pretty decent. If you get shut down by Alabama, you run the risk of that draft stock dropping maybe a little. So why even bother with it? Because for a game, you're not going to win. It's like you're not going to get embarrassed by. And Nick Saban's going to want to embarrass them in this game. I can't believe the last time we haven't scored over 30 points in Baton Rouge in forever. Well, that's going to change next weekend. That's for certain.
Yeah.
They better be lucky if we don't score 60 points on them.
Yeah.
If Nick Saban backs off after 60 points.
Yeah.
But if they deserve this beat down they're going to get. And the only caveat is the potential injury, which is always the case. We're playing an extra game that Ohio State doesn't seem to have to play. We're risking more injury than they are, and they'll make the playoff with playing 3 or 4 fewer games than we did. So that's a problem. And so now we go straight from 2 moderate games to the SEC championship. Now, if we boat race them like we should, and Bryce Young gets in there, by halftime,
yeah,
then it won't be so bad. But Mac Jones got to pad the stats, so we got to get him to pad the stats. Not Devontae to pad the stat, and Najee to pad their stat. But I'm definitely looking forward because our revenge tour gets to continue on. It's back-to-back revenge games, and it doesn't get any better than that. I was kind of not wanting the game at first because there kind of is no benefit for us. It's only a liability. But the more you guys talk, the more I'm like, I kind of do want to get this revenge out of my system too. LSU and Auburn.
Hey, look, it'll be fun. You know that. And I mean,
for us.
Yeah, for us. It's going to be fun to watch. I mean, look, I hope no one gets hurt on either side. I mean, they're just kids. They're out there playing. And LSU, they got a lot of issues. I thought they played one of their better defensive games against Texas A&M and really maybe questioned Texas A&M a little bit. But Alabama's going to come in there motivated and focused and thinking about last year. And that's why you sign up to play football. You play football to be a chance to be in the games, and I know it's every time Smitty's back there returning a kick, I'm like, man, please.
Really?
Like this,
yeah.
Okay, he's all right,
Yeah, that could be a problem.
Yeah.
I would say I disagree. I watched that game. They didn't have a good defensive game. Kellen Mond couldn't throw it in the ocean yesterday. His passes were just awful.
Right.
The weather could maybe affected some, maybe, but for them, and they were dropping passes they should have caught, and he fumbles on the 1 yard line, or on the 4 yard line, and they lose that. So it was him playing awful more so than the LSU defense playing good. Well, we should just be able to have our way with them. It should be the worst loss against Alabama in my lifetime. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Well, I hope you're right. I do. I hope you're right. And I just hope that, that we get there and we don't have any COVID issues and we play some football. Robert, thanks for calling in, man. Roll Tide.
All right, buddy. Catch you later.
That's Robert from Mobile. Great call. Hey, if you guys want to get in on the conversation, 205-850-0883, talking college football in Alabama on a Sunday night. I know everyone here isn't an Alabama fan, but we appreciate all you guys, whether you Roll Tide or you like the Buckeyes or you're an SEC fan, maybe you're a Tiger fan. This is a fun place to be, and we appreciate you all. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel. We're going to be here on Sunday night. Tomorrow we've got we actually got Monday night quarterback when I get the days right. And that'll be at 6 o'clock. Tuesday, Kyle will be on. He'll be doing his thing with Andrew Bone. They'll be talking recruiting. That's Tuesday night. Tuesday at 6, we'll be there to break down the standings, the college football playoff rankings, where we expect Alabama to be in there. The big surprise last week was that BYU wasn't anywhere close. Maybe that changes. They didn't play a tough schedule, but that's the situation. So let's get back to the phone lines, and we'll get Mike on here from Jacksonville. Mike, how you doing?
Hey, buddy, how's it going tonight?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Well, you know what? I was, I'm always the one. I'm called the spy, man. I like to go ahead and undercover just go out to these LSU podcasts and just sit there like a fly on the wall and listen what they say. Let me tell you, last night I was listening to a podcast. This was like about 12:30 at night. It went on to like 1 or something in the morning. But basically, this is ridiculous, man, what these guys are saying. The hatred is because of Devontae Smith coming to Alabama instead of LSU. These jokers is talking about trying to plot to hurt this kid, man, just because, he's doing so well and he didn't go to LSU. And I mean, that's what the fan base was talking about. It's like, I wanted to chime in so bad, but I just sat there and listened. But, it's sad that you reach that point. But even so, just listening, and I know they just, the wide receiver, quit for the rest of the year. And I really can't blame this guy, man. I mean, 9 rapes, and you read the USA article.
Mm-hmm.
9 rapes, and only 7, and only out of the 9, only 2 of them was brought forward, and they was mediocre players. All these key players now that's in the NFL or that's gone and all this stuff, like they didn't even bring charges against. We're talking rape now, and so now you got that outside investigation going. So people be talking about, what's the deal? Is it going to impact the recruiting? And, I listen to Bone all the time on his show. And it definitely should have an impact because who you going to listen to? Your parents are right there. You're going to send your kid to a school, that's got all this drama going on. And, you're not going to do that, especially when they're sitting on the fence where they got 2 or 3 options sitting out there. And so I'm just listening to this stuff and saying to myself, that LSU has turned into a dumpster fire right now,
Yeah.
And that's what I call it. And let me tell you something else. Another podcast I was listening to, now it's a dead period. Correct me if I'm wrong. Recruiting is a dead period right now, right?
It is.
Okay. Yeah. What's the kid? The safety, the top safety that just decided to go to LSU.
Sage Ryan.
Something like that.
Sage Ryan.
I can't. Yeah.
It's Sage
Ryan.
Ryan.
What happened. Let me tell you what LSU did. This is crazy, man. This is some crazy stuff. I'm listening to the podcast, and the guy was saying, I don't know if Bone was aware of this, but according to the LSU folks, this kid had pretty much made up his mind. He was actually going to come to Alabama at the last midnight minute. He had made up his mind to pretty much come to Alabama. Mm-hmm. And what they did, let me tell you, he's got an uncle that played for LSU.
Yeah, Kevin Falk. Can you remember him?
They had a Zoom
running back.
Do you know that they had and they had a Zoom conference, right? And all the LSU coaches was on the Zoom conference, including Ogeron and the kid's parents and the nephew. And his uncle, and convinced this kid to come to LSU, and that's why he made that decision. That's illegal. You can't do that. This is a dead period, man. You can't be talking to these players. They can come on campus, but you can't have any contact with the coaches. So, and the reason why I'm saying all this is the fact that should just give you an indication of all the stuff that's going on, that LSU is willing to do anything at any time, regardless, in the interest of their school, regardless of how illegal it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kind of look at it, and that's the reason why I call LSU a dumpster fire. And the big thing is, before I get off this phone, and I know, and you touched upon this, I never forget last year when Ogeron was in the locker room and on national media, when they had, how does it feel, Coach Ogeron, to finally beat Alabama? Alabama, okay? I don't think that Coach Saban, I don't think he's going to forget that.
Mm-mm.
And, he normally doesn't run up the score. And I can guarantee I was on a LSU podcast about 4 hours ago, and I wrote a little note, and they was talking about the wide receiver leaving, and they was upset about that. And I put a little statement in regards to,
you let them know.
What? It's going to be a beatdown this year, because I said Coach Saban never runs up the score. He's one of these coaches that, hey, he'll put in his second, third string, let them play and everything. If they score, that's fine. Or he'll just put they can be on the 1 yard line, and he'll just, down the ball. I can guarantee you in this case right here, this game, that he's going to run the score as far as he can go, because, these guys, man, are very arrogant. Their fan base is extremely arrogant. And, they just, especially from last year winning, you won 46-41.
Right.
We played 9 freshmen, true freshmen now,
yep,
that played high school football 6 months earlier. And then you bragging and with your chest out. So this year, like I explained in my statement on their podcast, I say, listen, these guys now sophomores. They haven't peaked yet, but they have gained a tremendous amount of experience. And trust me, you know what? Alabama is known for the elephant. And what's the characteristic of an elephant? An elephant never forgets.
Nope.
So keep that in mind, So that's all I got to say tonight. I'm looking forward to the game. And one thing before I go, I've got out of Jacksonville here, there's a huge fan base of Alabama,
Oh yeah.
Former students and alumni, everything. We've got it all here. But there's also a huge influx of Louisiana, folks from Louisiana,
right?
Especially when Trina and all that.
Yeah.
But my barber is a diehard. He's from New Orleans, diehard. And I'm telling you this story is because he's a diehard Louisiana guy, LSU guy, man. And this guy, even talking to him, he gets offensive, when you talk negative about LSU. So him and I get up on the skin, And so he was talking, and this is what, and I don't know if it was you or it was somebody else that called in and mentioned this. They haven't got over Nick Saban.
No.
They have not gotten over, you know what he told me 2 weeks ago? He says, I'm going to tell you right now, I can't stand Nick Saban. I said, well, what did Nick Saban do? Well, he went to Alabama. I say, well, okay, he went to the Dolphins, and so when he came back, he could have went to any other school. He could have went to Michigan or whatever. You don't go to the opposing school. I say, do you understand what you're saying? Do you understand? Is that I guess Lane Kiffin shouldn't have went to Ole Miss. I guess
right.
And Georgia and Tennessee and Pruitt, all these guys, smart. It's stupid, but they still got a grudge for Coach Saban, and I think it's because of the fact that with the winning, how he has dominated football, college football. He came to Alabama, and they hate that, man.
Yeah.
So they look back and say that could have been us, and so they just need to get over that. But I'm just going to conclude by saying, and get off this phone by saying that I am looking forward to this game. I told my barber, I said, look, put up or shut up. I'm not a gambling man, but in this case right here, hey, let's bet 500. Oh no. This is a down year for us. No, y'all talk all that trash, and all this other stuff. So hey, we're looking forward to the game. But the one thing I said in my statement on their podcast is this. I said, our objective is to go in and beat LSU, and not take them for granted, because they still got 4 stars and 5 stars.
Right.
But the most objective is not to get hurt, and that's the big thing. If we win the game and nobody gets hurt, I'm fine with that. But man, if we win the game and then walk away with a whole bunch of injuries, and that's a horse of a different color and another story altogether.
Well, fingers crossed, Mike.
Down the line.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Thanks for the call from Jacksonville, Mike, and roll tide to you.
All right, roll tide to you, and thank you so much, man. Have a blessed
anytime,
day.
man. Call next time. Yeah, he's bringing up a point, but you guys got to remember, and I'm going right back to the phone lines again, and I appreciate all you guys that have held for, to get on this show for a while, and I want you to call back in and talk football. 205-850-0883. Hey, caller, where are you calling from, and what do you want to talk about tonight?
This is Tim from Birmingham.
Hey, what's up, Tim?
Nick, I'm enjoying your show, man. First time logging on, and a lot of passionate fans out there. Speaking of passionate, we went to LSU in 2008, and we're wearing crimson and white. I have never heard the word tiger meat so many times in my life.
I know.
Followed up by expletives. But we got the best of them that day, beat them in overtime, intercepted in the end zone. So anywho, I was going to ask you, so my list of Louisiana players that are starting for the Tide: Slade Bolden, Devontae Smith, Dylan Moses, Christopher Allen, Christian Harris. Is that correct? Did I miss anyone?
Well, yeah. I mean, and then you got these guys. Look, Chris Allen and Christian Harris and Dylan Moses. Not only they're from Louisiana, they're from Baton Rouge. And
right on.
And you were talking about like Nick Saban coming from LSU. When he first got to Alabama, I remember thinking like, this is hard for him. He kind of had this tie to LSU. He'd won a championship there. People loved him. He never expected to come back to college, and then he ends up at Alabama. And then they were so rude and mean to him that within like a year, that you could definitely tell he had hardened to LSU. But one day when he's retired, I'm sure they'll bring him back to celebrate the 03 championship that he won there. He's gone down there. He knows all the coaches down there. He knows the talent, and he has done an excellent job. I mean, not just with this particular team, but you look back through his entire stay at Alabama, there always seems to be another guy from Louisiana that he gets. And that may be one of the reasons why they hate him so much, because, he's always good for, another player that either is from there or maybe is committed there, and then they end up coming to Alabama.
Yeah. Well, it's a fertile recruiting ground and always has been, kind of compared to Florida. So, but I've been to some pre-games there at walk-ons, and they have a good time down there, no doubt about it. So, Nick, I was just going to mention my firm is a design firm, and we were blessed enough to be a part of the design team for the new Malmore renovation. So I know where every speaker and every TV is at, because that's what I do, is audiovisual. And occasionally I get to go back down there, and I walk through the locker room, and these guys are walking around in their sweats, and Mac Jones is walking around, and our big tight end, Miller Forrestal, glad he's back, Slade Bolden, and I got to admit, I'm still a little starstruck.
Yeah.
Can't help it.
Yeah, it's a special feeling. For me, I mean, I've been around this for a long time, not just in college, but in baseball, and being around, the Cubs for a long time. And, it does take a while to kind of get used to just, walking in Wrigley or walking into Bryant-Denny and the history that goes with it and the different players that are there. I've always loved Alabama. The first game I went to, I told you guys, was the 96 Iron Bowl. And from that minute on, I was just sold on the entire, process, the entire thing. And that was in Birmingham. That was at Legion Field. I'd say to me, the game, and maybe you got one that sticks out to you, besides like national championship games, and I've been to a bunch of them now. The game that still to me is just above and beyond as far as just the crowd was that 9-6 win over Philip Fulmer in Tennessee, the Rocky stop. That I don't know why, but I was at Rammer Jammers on Friday for breakfast before the game. You know where I'm talking about, the little shop that's right next to the stadium.
Right in the shadow.
Yeah, right in the shadow. And they had they've got a ton of pictures from games that are in there. And I'm looking around and I'm going, I was at that one and that one and that one and that one and that one. I'm like, man, I've been to too many of these games, but I have great memories from most of those games, but I was trying to think of the game that had the most intense cheering. And I think it was when, because Alabama had lost to Tennessee for so long, and then to, kind of beat them, and that the way that game ended, it looked like Tennessee was going to go in and score. Roman Harper popped that fumble out, and it went through the end zone, and then a couple passes and a kick, and boom, and they had Christensen's kick shoes on the wall in there. You remember he was the guy that made all those field goals that season, so including the one to beat Tennessee. So, but yeah, that's cool. How have and I haven't had a chance to see it. It's been tough to get into the games this year. How did the renovations go?
Well, there were two pieces to it: the Bryant Denny, but then the athletic facility in the sports science area was a different contract, and it's amazing. There's some videos out showing the locker rooms and Jeff Allen talking about the chairs and all of the hydrotherapy pools, cryo tubes, psychological testing. I mean, they just really, it's fantastic. So, look, I'm not going to take it anywhere. I know people want to get in here, but I'm showing my age now, but I go back to the days of number 22, Johnny Musso. When I played football, that was my number. So, hey, God bless you, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tim. And Alabama has had a string of running backs. I mean, you going back to Johnny Musso and I mean, Bobby Humphrey. I mean, you can go through and you're going to run into just one star after the next. So, hey, call back again, and I appreciate it. Have a great night. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Great call there. He had a guitar or something, and he played a riff. He said they were giving him a hard time down in Baton Rouge. Hey, if you guys want to get in on the show, it's 205-850-0883. Going right back to the phone lines again and talking Alabama and LSU, maybe the Iron Bowl. We'll do it all here tonight. Looks like a Montgomery number. How you doing?
No, it's not a Montgomery number, but it's Jeff. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Where are you from?
From Alabama. I called you before the Iron Bowl.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, yeah. Let's talk football. What'd you think of the Iron Bowl?
I loved it. I told you the score would be 52-3, but hey, that's fine.
It was close.
2-13. It's like them playing Notre Dame again or something. But LSU. Yeah, man, that's a big game for us. And I was kind of like the first guy he was talking about how he was kind of on the ropes about not playing them because it might hurt our season. But I think what they did was perfectly fine, and I'm ready for the game. And I'm ready to see Coach O eat all his words.
Oh, so am I. Well, see, here's the thing. I don't think that there was ever going to be an option for Alabama to say we didn't want to play the game. I think that they put 10 games on the schedule, and that's what the SEC expected everyone to play. Now, they knew that there was going to come a point where they may have to maneuver some things, and that's exactly what happened. But I don't think that Nick Saban can call up and say, hey, we don't want to play this one because it's going to, we can rest guys and we don't want to get hurt. They put 10 games on there, and I think that's what they expect to play. This is a big games rating wise, and I'm not the only one that wants to see what happens. And let me say this before we get into anything else. Thanks for the super chat. Sherry, and we appreciate you guys listening and talking football with us tonight. And again, the phone line's open at 205-850-0883. So if you want to talk some Alabama LSU, then you know what? Call us and let's talk. But so what do you think about this week's game? I mean, forget about the injuries, just your feelings on Alabama and LSU.
I don't care about their injuries. We had injuries last year. They didn't have any mercy on us, so we're not going to have any mercy on them this year. We're going to go in there, we're going to take them out, and we're going to go play Arkansas, and then we're going to take them out. And that's it. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, LSU has done, and their fans are so, I don't know how to say it. They're so rude. And I know I'm an Alabama fan. I know how we are. I know we're conceited. I know we're arrogant sometimes. But we have a right to be. Look at our team right now. Look at what they're doing. Look at what they did to Auburn. And then the Florida tries to come in there and say, well, you're not doing anything or whatever. But they got to remember, they still got to play us in the SEC championship game. But like I said, LSU. I'm getting off subject. I'm looking forward to it because it's a redemption game. And if we didn't play it, like I said, at first, I was like, maybe, but, I'm glad we're playing it because if we didn't get to play it, then that would be like a hole in the heart for the Alabama players because they really want to play this game. And Coach Saban really wants to be there to coach this game, I'm pretty sure. Even though Sarkisian can do it because look what he did against Auburn. I mean, have you ever heard of an assistant coach beating a head coach at a major university?
Right.
I mean, you haven't. It's just not. It's not heard of. I mean, Sarkisian went in there and took care of business. Defense went in there and took care of business.
He did a good job. I mean, like there were. I talked to Max Howe today, and I want to remind all you guys too that on Apple Podcasts, search BamaInsider, and we've been trying to put up a lot of new content. And one of the shows that I enjoy doing is with former coach and longtime SEC broadcaster, and I mean just like sports talk guy, Max Howe. And Max has been in Atlanta, and he's been in Mississippi and Alabama and all over the place, and he just knows it and lives it, and he's just a great guy. He used to do my college radio show when I was at the University of Alabama years ago for nothing, just to do it. And so, it's been fun to kind of reconnect with him again, and talk football every Sunday and kind of recap everything. So it's available if you want to listen to it. Just go download it for free. Search BamaInsider, Apple Podcasts, or wherever. But we were talking about this today, and it's like, first off, Nick Saban has this presence on the sideline that it takes years and years to develop. And there were a couple of times in that game where something happened and I'm like, okay, this is where they pan to Nick Saban and he looks like the picture on there. Like he's angry, like he's taking his headsets off, or he's, you fumble the football at the end of the game, Brian Robinson, like you're getting chewed out.
Yeah.
Like that. It's not just,
yes,
you can't do that. Like, and this team doesn't do that. And that's a bad mistake to have. And I know, look, it happens during the course of the game, but it was just like, and then they go down and score and make it worse. Like they put a little bit of cosmetics on what should have been a score that was, basically a 14-point swing. I mean, because Alabama should have scored and not them. And it doesn't really matter. No, Alabama won the game, but it's just, it's just kind of like for the recruiting and everything else. There's a point to be made there that they did their best. They did very, very, very good, but they made a mistake. And I love when Nick Saban's on the sideline. But at the end of the day, Sark did a nice job, and they won the football game.
If Nick didn't complain about something, I wouldn't know how to act. Put it like that.
Right.
Because he always said, he's like, it is good. We're going to win we're going to have a good time, 24 hours, but the defense has some problems. He always has to have something to say. It's like his cup of tea,
Yeah.
He says what he says, and then they fix it.
Let me tell you a story. This is an example of what makes him different than every other coach. And let me say this too, before I get into this, We appreciate you guys being here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Subscribe as you watch, whether you're an Alabama fan or you're just a college football fan. We're going to be back at it again tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, with our Monday night quarterback show. Tuesday, it'll be Kyle Henderson and me at 6 o'clock to take a look at the college football rankings as they come out. And then Kyle and Andrew Bone get together after that for an update on recruiting with Bone. A lot of stuff here. Check out the website as well. That's BamaInsider.com. There's a great deal going on right now at the Bama Insider website. $75. You pay $75, you get an entire year. So when you break that down, it's really not that much money per month. And you get all that premium content. Tony Tsoukalis' write-ups. You get you get Andrew Bone's recruiting stuff, you get Kyle's Nuggets, all that, and then you get a $75 gift card to the Nike store. So you get all that Alabama gear. It doesn't necessarily have to be Nike, but there's a lot of cool stuff that you can get with that gift card. So it's like getting it for free pretty much. You just get a gift card to pay for your subscription. So it's an awesome deal. Check it out right now. And as we go into the holidays, it's for an Alabama fan, the membership is a great gift. So I appreciate all you guys that are hanging out with us tonight. So let me tell you this story. Okay, so I've been covering Alabama for a long time. I was a student. I worked for the Crimson Tide Sports Network for years, right? I worked for the SEC Network. I did a radio show before I came here, one on the flagship station for Alabama. Now I'm doing my show here, and I'm with Bama Insider, right? I've been around this for a long, long time, and I've seen a lot of things when it comes to to Alabama football. And the one thing that I know that I've taken from Nick Saban, the one thing I've learned being around this dynasty is that you don't celebrate a championship and a championship team very long if you want to keep winning. And that's how you're number one for 13 consecutive years. Well, I also work for the Chicago Cubs, and we won the World Series in 2016. I have a World Series ring, which is one of the best things that anyone's ever given to me, and I'm very proud of that.
That's very cool.
I get the spring training in 2017, and we're still celebrating 2016. 2018, we're still celebrating. It's a mentality, and I get it. I mean, the team hadn't won a World Series in 108 years, and it was really special, and it is special, and it's different than any other championship that will be won in our lifetime. But with that said, to be able to do what this guy has done, it's a lot. It's just really difficult. I mean, look at LSU this year. It's tough to come back and refocus. And I'm not putting the Cubs down, and I'm not putting LSU down or anyone else. I mean, once you're a champion, you're always a champion. But what I'm saying is that Nick Saban is the very best coach in college football. And I guess he and Bill Belichick are the two best coaches in sports. And the reason why is that these guys are able to forget about the championship that they just won and focus on something else, which is their next goal, really quickly. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's very true. I mean, and the same thing with Nick Saban is, I've noticed too, is that every time that he does win, he has humility. And before games, he talks about the team like he says, well, they have a good running back and everything. He wants to say certain things about certain teams because he knows he's going to blow them out of the water. But it's just Nick's mentality about the way he is. He's not going to do that. He's not that type of person. Now, he will run this score up this Saturday, like that one guy was talking about.
Yeah.
He will run this score up this Saturday because Coach O has done some things that he shouldn't have done, and everybody knows this. I know he was happy, but there's a difference in being a champion and being a big egotistical idiot champion. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
You think about it. Coach O, he's not married now. He's divorced. He could be looking at the hot seat if he loses this game, because what do they say? If you lose to Alabama, you're on the hot seat pretty much, right? He's on his 4th year of coaching, something like that.
Yeah.
And LSU, look at that. Look at Grass Eater. I call him Grass Eater. I'm sorry. Les Miles, that's his name. But Les Miles, look at him. They took him out in the middle of the season because he didn't beat Alabama.
Yeah. Well,
it's a big deal if you don't beat Alabama.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I mean, I don't think no matter what happens in Baton Rouge that Ed Orgeron will be fired this year. But I think that the leash is pretty short a year after winning a championship. I think that, obviously the opt-outs, losing a lot of coaches, these are all things that Alabama's Nick Saban has dealt with, losing coaches, losing guys to the NFL, some guys transfer, like Jalen Hurts. I mean, one of the best players we've had, he transferred. Obviously he wasn't a starter, but, it still hurt to lose him, right? All these things that Alabama has dealt with, and somehow they find a way to be consistent. This is, I think
every year.
Right. I think Ed O gets a reprieve. Obviously the recruiting's going well. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with some of this off the field stuff that they're dealing with. And it's also going to be interesting to see what they do as far as the coaching staff that they have. Going into next year, but he's going to get that benefit of the doubt season because they won last year. And I think that people in Baton Rouge and LSU fans got to appreciate that. Look, no matter how he did it, which was absolutely shocking to me, having seen his act, after seeing this guy act and the screaming and watching him like run up the street and the tiger walk, and a lot of the stuff that he does is clownish to me. And I've heard from people that he's a really nice guy and he's a good X's and O's coach, and he gets the guys motivated. I don't know. Every time I see him, it just seems like the 60 Minutes thing where he's like running down the street without a shirt on, jogging and all. It's like, come on, man. Like maybe down there they like that stuff. I guess Alabama fans, they like the guy that wears the houndstooth hat and acts like he's been there before. They like the guy that wears the straw hat and acts like he's been there before. It's like when you score a touchdown, you just hand the ball to the official.
That's another thing. That's another thing with Alabama, with Nick Saban and LSU. How can they have that much hate for him? I don't understand that. I mean, I know he left. I understand that, but coaches leave all the time and go to other places.
Right.
I mean, it's not like he said, well, screw you. I'm not never coming back, and you can all go to hell for all I care. He didn't say nothing like that. He didn't say anything. He said, I've had a good year. And everything was good. We won a championship. Then he left. I mean, they can't be mad about that.
Right.
I'm sorry. I mean, they can't.
Well, appreciate the call. And look, I'll tell you this right now. You're right. I mean, this is how it is. Like they won last year, and then they made all the comments, and I'm going to play those again just so that we can all just kind of remember what Ed O said.
In the locker room for the defense.
Let me put this graphic back up. Kyle won't let me play the locker room video. I would play it. I would beep it out, maybe. But
he did beep it out before, didn't he? Didn't he play it before?
I don't think we're allowed to. I don't think we're allowed to play it. I think that I don't know. From what I've begged,
maybe not.
But he's the editor. I'm just a foot soldier in this BamaInsider army.
I know. I understand that, and that's cool and everything. I like Cal. Cal's cool.
Cal's the best.
Cal's a good guy. He's been doing this for a long time, just like you have, and you guys do a real good job, and I appreciate it. And we're gonna take LSU out, just like we took Auburn out, and that's all it is too.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that what's gonna happen. They don't know the score yet, because Nick's gonna run that score up.
Right.
Sarkisian's gonna have fun with the offense Saturday.
Yeah.
He's going, and that defense. Oh man, that defense. They remember all that stuff last year from talking about how Alabama lost by 5 points to LSU. It won't be no 5 points this year, brother. I promise you that.
Yeah. Well, great call, and thank you. Roll Tide, my friend.
Roll Tide, brother. Later.
Phone lines are open. As long as you guys are calling, we're talking. The number is 205-850-0883. Kind of getting you ready and juiced up for Alabama and the LSU Tigers. This has been the big game in the SEC. It really has. Now, Auburn kind of gets in the mix every once in a while, but Alabama LSU has meant a lot over the last 15 years. All right, caller, where are you from and what's your name?
Hey, am I on?
Yeah.
I'm from Mississippi, and I'm Mark Smith.
Oh, what's up, Mark? How's it going, man?
It's been good, but what I wanted to talk about is like I've obviously been an Alabama fan for since 2008. That year, LSU, it was a 9-6 game or something like that, and since then we've kind of just owned them. And then last year happened, and I've been hearing LSU fans' mouth for about a year, and all I just want to say is next week, whenever this game happens, and we drop 60 on y'all. I hope Nick Saban, Mac Jones, Devontae Smith have the biggest smile on their face, because I believe this is the most talented Alabama team we've had since that I believe 2000. It was the year we went undefeated but lost in a natty to Clemson. But I just don't understand like how Nick Saban is able to recruit, develop, and just put the same product or as good of a product as he put in out last year. Like, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, look, I don't know how he does it either. I mean, I'm going to throw myself under the bus because, as you guys get to know me, you'll realize that I'm just going to tell you what I think. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I had no idea that Mac Jones was going to be this good. As a matter of fact, I thought Talia, Tua's brother, would eventually take the job and it would be his team. And he transferred, and it surprised me. And then Mac came back, and he has just been amazing. And look, I'm glad. I mean, I've loved it. And I just didn't think that you could improve as much as he has. And he has worked so hard. He has to have. He's gotten bigger. He's gotten stronger. He's smarter. And in a lot of ways, and I love Tua. And you can see Tua's behind me on the wall there, newlifeart.com. And that's a Daniel Moore print. Tua sometimes he would just try to force things too much. He'd run around and get sacked or get hurt or whatever. Mac doesn't. I mean, like, he just throws the ball away. He's like a computer out there. And this team is so tight knit, and that's something that Nick Saban's talked about. And I think one of the reasons why is that it's old school, whereas like they're all stuck together in this bubble. They spend so much time together that they love each other. And I mean, it's obvious. Now, I don't know that translates into a national championship, but they're a special team in a lot of ways. And Mac Jones is a big reason why.
Yeah. And like over the past 3 years, since the Clemson dynasty pretty much started, I've been hearing how Dabo Swinney is the next Nick Saban, the next, coach that's going to take over. But I'm like, if you really think about it, Saban, the history of Alabama has been run the ball, good defense. Recently, he's been having these quarterbacks that have been able to do more than A.J. McCarron. But I always say, like, Dabo Swinney, if you look at it, he had Deshaun Watson and now Trevor Lawrence. So it's like he has two. I believe Deshaun Watson should have been the first overall pick or the first quarterback taken, but he has two bona fide I believe Trevor Lawrence is also going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback in the NFL, but that's too early to tell. But again, he had two amazing quarterbacks, but Saban has been able to win in different ways. He's had to win with Mark Ingram at that time. Then there was I believe, championship team that won the year we lost to LSU, which was also shocking, which was just amazing. But I just don't see Dabo Swinney. I need to see Dabo Swinney win in different ways without having like this all-star quarterback at his helm.
Yeah, it would be
in order to put him in that same realm.
Right. And you bring up a good point about the way that this Alabama program has over the 14 years since Nick Saban's been there, how they have, or 13, no, I think it's 14, right? 2007, 2007, they had the textbook scandal. They were off and running. And then, after they lost all those players because of selling their textbooks, they beat Tennessee and then they lost out, including Louisiana Monroe. 2008, John Parker Wilson's quarterback. You're talking about a team that got to number one and then lost to Florida in a game in Atlanta that they could have won. They made, too many mistakes against one of the really great teams in SEC history with Tim Tebow. Then 2009, it was the same thing. They looked a lot like Georgia does right now. Hand the ball off to Mark Ingram. You had Greg McElroy, who talent-wise wasn't a great quarterback, but was smart, could game manage, knew how to get the ball out to people, and made the most out of, like 2-star skills. But he went out there and won. I mean, he was a winner, and he was the next year as well. But 2010, they had the talent, still that same style, but that team really didn't buy in. And that was one of those teams that should have done a lot better than they did. They lost to South Carolina. They lost to Auburn. 2011 was when we had the tornado in Tuscaloosa. And those guys all went out there and rallied around the community. They became a close-knit team. That's the team that lost to LSU in the game of the century, right? And then beat them in the championship game. They rolled Notre Dame the next year with Eddie Lacy. Those teams were all like Georgia was built. Game management, time of possession, great defenses, took the run away from you. They always seem to have problems with the running quarterback. There were games where they struggled to score sometimes, but they looked like old school NFL teams. And then something happened, and they beat Clemson in the championship game in 2015. And that was the game where it was like, back and forth. And you can see Kenyon Drake behind me there in that bronze statue. He scored that touchdown on the kickoff return. That was when I really got the feeling that football had changed, right? But there was the point where where Nick Saban said, hey, if this is what you guys want college football to be, then that's fine, where they started to really change the rules and all of a sudden, all the good players, you put them on offense, or all the best athletes, and they became track meets. And if Alabama, and I'm talking about all the hurry up stuff and the spread stuff, and there was either you had to decide what you were going to do. And you watch Georgia this year; they're a great example of why you have to change your offense with the times. And Nick Saban went out and got Lane Kiffin. The good, the bad, the ugly with Lane. The good is that he's not just good, he's great as an offensive coordinator. He's got issues that have haunted him, obviously, but he's done a nice job with Ole Miss, and he did a great job with the Alabama offense. It was, it sucked that he got fired or whatever happened to him after Alabama, played Washington in that championship game, because I think they would have won another national championship had Lane Kiffin not been out, but obviously there were some issues there that Nick was tired of dealing with, and off he went, right? But that move and bringing him in and changing the offense and kind of streamlining things and getting to this generation of football is what all the great coaches do. Bear Bryant did that before, totally changed the offense, and Nick Saban, did as well. And now you look at it and it's like, it's just Alabama scores. They've got explosive players all over the offense. Devontae Smith had one of the best Iron Bowls that I can remember for a receiver in a win. I mean, like, he was just everywhere. And then, last year you had Tua with 6 touchdowns 2 years ago. Last year was Waddle. I mean, like, every time you turn around, like, there's someone else doing something magical. But you're exactly right when you talk about the way that Alabama and Nick Saban have been able to grow with the game of college football. And that's what makes him special, because I'm sure if it was up to him, he'd go back to the games that were like 13-10, grinded out power football, but it's not the way that it is anymore.
Yeah. And last thing I have to say, or a question or something I want to bring up, is the only real, I say, coach I am scared of in the SEC is now Lane Kiffin, because I've seen, we've had a couple of years of seeing Kirby Smart, and I just don't think he knows enough about the offense and how to run it to beat a Bama defense. But I think Lane Kiffin, he knows the weakness of his Bama defense. Like, I'm pretty sure anytime he's going to play Bama, he's going to pull up some Auburn tape and how Gus Malzahn runs the spread offense. And he knows the offense, and he's a savant when it comes to offense in my mind. And I think he can get this Ole Miss team if he only needs a defense. If he can get this Ole Miss team to recruit and get a defense, the Ole Miss could be the best team in Mississippi, and also competing with like LSU, Auburn, and Alabama for the SEC championship and Texas A&M.
I'll
But
tell you what, they're going to
I just
score.
haven't seen enough from Kirby Smart.
Right. They're going to score points. Mark, thanks for the call from Mississippi, man. Catch us next time, all right?
No problem. I will.
All right, thank you so much. Roll Tide. Let's go back to the phones again. And if you want to call, I'm taking them as long as you guys are calling. 205-850-0883. This is Bama Insider and our YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you guys being here on a Sunday night and talking college football. And I mean, look, I've always thought that Sunday night is a night where we don't have enough college football talk, because Saturday comes and then it goes, and then the NFL. I mean, I'm not a big NFL guy. I'm ready to talk more college football, and I'm glad that you guys are as well. David from Louisiana, how you doing, man?
Oh, man, I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. What's on your mind
awesome,
tonight?
Man, that's awesome. Well, I've been hearing everybody talk, man, and I'm enjoying what I'm hearing. I agree with everybody that I believe Bama is just going to really embarrass LSU, like, majorly. You know, and I live in enemy territory over here, like, big time. And, you know, we didn't get to play the original time that we normally was going to with LSU, you know, earlier in this month. We're playing them December the 5th, you know, so that's 391 days of having to hear LSU fans talk 46-41, 46-41. We beat y'all. We're the greatest team to ever walk on the planet. You know, and I told her, I could tell all of them, yeah, y'all had one of the best seasons that any other college team has ever had. But just imagine if Jerry Jeudy, Ruggs, Harris, you know, all those powerful players we had last year wouldn't have went into the draft and would have came back and played again this year, of how we would have destroyed teams worse than what we have so far. With all those guys, along with Smith, and when Waddle was healthy before he got hurt, man, probably 80, 90 points a game. Easy. I mean, that's the way I look at it. I mean, it could have happened.
The thing about it, it's crazy, is that I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're wrong. I mean, think about the way that Alabama played against Ole Miss, right? They gave up a lot of points, but they scored a lot of points. And I don't have the number in front of me, but there was like a stat in that at the end of the game that Alabama got all but like 49 or 59 yards that they could have possibly gotten in the game, right? They had like a punt and a fumble. That was it. Every other time they scored. So they didn't leave any out there, which tells me that, you know, that this offense, which it doesn't have Waddle right now, Ruggs and Jeudy are in the NFL. You got Smitty.
Yep.
And honestly, some new guys are making names for themselves. Billingsley, I really like Billingsley. Minchie, he catches the ball when they throw it. And I'm watching Auburn's guys do a lot of this, right? And I'm watching Alabama's guys. They just catch the ball. I mean, it's amazing, you know, like the way that they just hold on to it. It makes you a better quarterback when you know you're going to throw it and they're going to catch it. And they don't drop it much. But, yeah, I could see that. Now, and then get those big gashing runs. I mean, I think that to get that many points, though, realistically, you'd have to have some turnovers as well. But after watching LSU's offense against Texas A&M, they're going to turn the ball over a lot. They're going to turn the ball because they got two quarterbacks and not one of them's good. And they're kind of rotating those guys in. It feels like I'm watching a race at Talladega. You ever watch NASCAR before? Mm-hmm. And you get into that last lap. And you remember when Dale Earnhardt used to run there, and he'd always kind of hang in the back a little bit, and you'd get about 3 laps from the end, and all of a sudden he'd be at the front, and everybody else would be in a wreck. I just feel like this LSU program right now is about to just end up in a hunk of steel on the side of the track at Talladega. It feels like a train wreck.
Yep. Exactly, because they don't have a leader on offense or really a leader on defense. I mean, everybody, all these LSU fans, they scream and yell. Well, we had all these players go into the NFL, blah, blah, blah. Well, Bama constantly puts some of their top players in the NFL, and it's every year it seems like that Alabama is in contention for a national championship, or, things happen like it did last year where they got beat by that other team from Alabama and that one from here and where I'm at right now, I mean, it just, you can't win them every single year, but it's crazy that, if Bama got beat in the national championship or even in a playoff, the next year they're right back in contention again.
Right.
I mean, and LSU couldn't even do it again this year, it's just, and I mean, yeah, we can blame it all on COVID-19 and all that mess, but I mean, you see how Alabama done. I mean, they ain't blaming it on COVID-19. They just kept on scrapping and fighting and clawing and doing what they're supposed to do, like Florida's doing. Florida, I believe Florida's going to give, if everything goes right and something just don't happen where LSU happens to pull this out, because anything can happen. Just you never know. I just don't see it happening. But if Bama and Florida make it to the SEC championship game, I believe Florida might give Bama some fits. I mean, Kraft is a good quarterback.
I agree.
And
let me ask you a question. Where at in Louisiana are you?
I've been right up here in the northern part. I originally grew up down south Louisiana, but I was born in Mobile, Alabama.
Okay.
And my dad's a diehard LSU fan, but he's also a preacher, and he used to use Paul Bear Bryant in a lot of his sermons, and growing up, I just fell in love with, Alabama football, and I just become the black sheep of the family.
Hey, you're not the black sheep.
And,
your family's right here in crimson and white.
Yeah. But I live up by Shreveport, Louisiana area.
Yeah, I know where that is. That's over by my buddy Max Howe. Max lives over there. Well, I'm going to play you a clip from last year's game, and I just want to get your comment on it. I want to know what it was like last year and the difference now this year after this clip right here. You might not have seen this yet, but I've been playing it on here, and I'm going to play it for you and everyone else watching.
Go ahead. Right in the middle of the field. Everybody. Hey, we've been waiting for this moment, man. Let's go. Right here in the middle of the damn field. Let's bring it down. Tigers on 3.
Hell yeah.
Because this is our house from now on.
Yes, sir.
Tigers on 3. 1, 2, 3. Tigers!
Just felt like that one win. To him, in my mind, he thought that finally they owned Alabama. What was it like down there when you had to deal with that loss? And then what's life like there now for these Tigers?
Well, whenever I seen that video clip, the next day after the game was over with and everything, and it was circulating all over Facebook, and my LSU friends down here were posting it and everything. If you could have read my blood pressure rating and everything, it really ticked me off, because I was like, but I also laughed at the same time because I was like, how many years did it take for y'all to finally beat us? I mean, we had a quarterback that shouldn't have, been really, playing really. I mean, he was just coming off of that ankle surgery and everything else. He wasn't 100%. And I believe if Tua would have been 100%, but I think he was around 90, 95%.
Right.
If he'd have been 100%, I think it could have turned out differently. I really do.
I do too.
But, now that they're losing, they still throw up all the records. We had the quarterback that threw almost 10,000 yards, or, all this mess, all these receivers with all these big, yard games and breaking all these records and stuff like that. I told them, I said, look, that's all fine and dandy. I said, but remember something, that's the past. This is the present. And the future is fixing to come and smash you in the face come December the 5th, around 7 o'clock, whenever kickoff starts, right over here, Central Time. Bama is going to roll all over y'all, because I'm telling you, Nick Saban put that on that big old chalkboard up there. Every time they walk in that locker room or they practice room or weight room, LSU, we play them, destroy them, and I believe it's going to be a bloodbath. It's not going to be Tiger Stadium no more. It's going to be Tigger Stadium, from Winnie the Pooh. Tigger, they're going to beat the stripes off of them.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you.
But they'll still use excuses, oh, it's just a bunch of little, new guys, freshmen, and blah, blah, blah. It's just going to be the same old mess over and over again. That's one thing LSU fans come up with, Auburn fans come up with. Anybody we beat, it's always an excuse.
Well,
when we get beat, we just bow down and say, congratulations. We'll see you next year.
Yeah, right.
A
little bit of class.
We don't.
But you know what? It makes it fun. I mean, like when you talk like that and you go at Nick Saban like that, you got to expect what's going to happen when the next time around. And look, and the game hasn't happened yet. I mean, we're all talking. What did I see? The spread's like 28.5 or something. They didn't lose yet.
Yeah.
So they still, they could go in there and win. And I mean, like, it would be a monumental upset in Tiger Stadium at night. I mean, I can't even believe Alabama's going to show up to play there. I mean, why would they want to go to Tiger Stadium at night to play football? I mean, that's like, it's in Death Valley. They might not come home.
Yep. The buses might be all on flat. So by the time they leave out of there,
right,
possibly burnt to the ground with those people down there. I mean, it's just living in, like I said, living in enemy territory. It's kind of like, sending somebody to Afghanistan. It's crazy over here.
Yeah.
I walked into a restaurant. I'm a police officer.
Are you?
And I was, yes, sir. And on my days off, one of my buddies, he called me to go eat lunch with him. So I go over there and I have an Alabama shirt on. Walk up in there, and this guy that owns the place is a diehard. I'm talking about diehard LSU fan. And he told me to leave because I had an Alabama shirt on. So I was like, wow, you really going to do that to me? He said, it's my establishment. So that's just how they are over here. Some people are like that, but you got some that, that have there's some here that have class, but that's a very small few people that have class over here. It seems like.
Well, I can tell you this right now. If that ever happens to you again, when you're wearing your Alabama shirt into an establishment and they tell you that you got to leave, I know exactly what you say to them.
What's that?
Roll Tide and just walk right out.
That's it. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And go to the next place because you know what? All money's green, so somebody will take it.
That's right. That's right. But, I mean, a few days later, I went in there in uniform and, which I usually eat there just about every day anyways. It's the only place in town that's got good food. But, he apologized, and everything. And I was like, hey, man, it is what it is, I said, just don't let me catch you speeding. So he just kind of said, okay, fair is fair, But anyways.
Well, great call, David.
I'm ready for I'm ready for for December the 5th, man. I'm just ready for Mac, Devontae, and Mechie and Jordan Battle and all them to hammer down on these Tigers and beat the stripes off of them and make a new breed of Tigers.
I think you're going to get your
with that being said, brother, I think it's going to be about 70 to LSU might get 3 points out of it. I think 70-3, kind of like what we done to Kentucky, where we smoked them by 60.
Hey, look, if they scored 70 on LSU, that would be something.
Yep. I want to see them just blow the doors off of them, so it shut them up for a while.
Yeah. It's time. It's
and like
time to
like
zip
you
'em.
said earlier, I think if I think he may have 2 more years as a head coach of LSU. If he has another year like this one, he might even make it through next season halfway. So, but with that being said, roll Tide. God bless each and every one of y'all, and God bless America.
Yeah, be safe out there, David, and we appreciate your service to the community. And Roll Tide right back at you. Phone lines are open, 205-850-0883. Going right back to the phone lines and taking a call from Kurt in Birmingham. What's up, man? Roll Tide.
Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I mean, as you can tell, I'm pretty excited about this matchup.
Man, let me tell you, I really don't even think it's a get back. I think it's just like we need to get our players better. Just getting better is the key, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't even trip about Orgeron. Like, I expected him to say something like that. Like, he was just so hyped and he was just so into it. But he never knew that this year was. That's why they say you never know what's coming next. So you need to be humble because you never know what might happen. And I think everybody always talk about Alabama got to do something. They got all these players and how they stay great. And I just look at Kirby and I say he get all the best recruits. He took he negatively recruited against Nick, and LSU they negatively recruited against Nick. And now they get to see how hard it is to keep doing it. You can bring in all the players you want, but if you can't do nothing with them, they ain't no good to you.
Right.
So it's like I look at Sage Ryan, like what he did, and I agree. Like they did have that night call where he talked to them on a Zoom call. But do you think some of those players in the back of their mind they thinking like, oh man, I need to, think about what I'm gonna do, or you think he might decommit?
And I think it's a tough decision for any of these kids. I mean, I can't even imagine, his cousin's on LSU staff. I remember when his cousin was a running back and he was good, They beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. I was a student. I remember being at the game. Kevin Falk, he's good. And but at the same time, it's like I'm sure Sage Ryan's looking at this going, man, I could go play for Alabama. I'm going to win a championship because everybody that goes there at least gets one. I'm going to be coached by the best coach, that I could ever possibly be coached by. And everyone in my state knows it because he's the reason why our program's even on the map right now. Because before Nick Saban showed up, they were middle of the road SEC. But you got all these different people pulling you in all these different directions.
Exactly.
He's got to be looking at the situation too, going, something's not right. When your best player, opts out before the Alabama game, the week before the Alabama game, I get the draft, but you only played 8 games. Like, this isn't even like a normal season. Like, normally you play 12. And that kid probably smart. He's probably looking at it going, this receiver's not throwing me the ball. He's going to get me hurt, or I can't take the risk, or something like that. And who knows? At the end of the day, if I'm that kid, if I'm that guy, and I have a chance to go somewhere as stable as Alabama, or maybe as turbulent as LSU, as good as it was last year, it's as bad as it's ever been for a defending national championship game in the team in the last 30 some years for them this year. They're going to end up under 500. I would go to Alabama, but you know what? I'm not him, and I don't have to live in that state either.
And it's like you got to look at Jalen Waddle. Like, he broke his ankle. He's still fighting his hardest to get back just to play in a championship game when he's going to be like a top 8, 9 pick, and he's still waiting. Like, he still want to get back. Like, you can see him on the sideline. He was like hungry. Like, he really just thinking about, man, when I get back on that field. Like, you can look at him on TV when they showed him. He was hungry. he was like he wish he could get out there with one leg.
Yeah. But I was talking about this earlier, with Max Howe. And again, I want to tell you guys that you need to check out the Max and Mick podcast. And it's free. It's Apple, Spotify. Just search Bama Insider, and we do it every Sunday. But I was talking about how Alabama has been able to recruit 5-star talent and 4-star talent with 4 and 5-star character or 5-star character. Where other teams might get a 5-star talent and he's a 1-star person, and that's why a lot of these other schools, their best players are getting in trouble. Alabama's best players are helping make the other guys better. They're doing things for the community. They're representing our school on TV. They come on and it's like, you're so proud that the guy went to Alabama, because I went there, and when they're interviewed, they're smart. They make us all look good, and that's because of you know what I'm talking about. That's what Nick Saban has been able to do. Last 2 years we've had the most popular guy on the team get hurt, and the guy's on the sideline, and he's in the club I don't want to say clubhouse, in the locker room, and he's supporting his teammates, trying to get back healthy again. Tua didn't have a chance. I wouldn't be surprised if Waddle doesn't miraculously ends up back somehow. And I don't know that it's going to happen, but there's just something about this program when you see Harris, Damian Harris, you see him have that game against the Ravens, and he's getting interviewed after the game, and he's talking about what it was like being an Alabama Crimson Tide running
They always do it.
It's crazy, man. Yeah. Special.
And it's like two things I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna let you go. It's like I was looking on Twitter, and I look down on Twitter, and I see the Honey Badger that played for the Kansas City Chiefs, and he talking about an Alabama player. He said Malachi Moore looks like the next Honey Badger, and I was like, if you go to this tweet, he said Malachi Moore looks like the next Honey Badger. I was like, wow, I can't believe he said that. And then I was looking at remember when Alabama was doing the barbershop talk?
Yeah.
And they had C.J. Mosley in there. Or was it C.J. Mosley or was it Julio Jones? It was one of them. And it was like, he used to tell recruits, and they used to come, he used to have to get them they tour. He's like, Bama ain't for everybody. He's like, if you don't want to do this and you don't want to do this, don't come here, because it's not for everybody. And he said a lot of recruits respected him, because he told them, he wasn't just telling them to come. He said, it ain't for everybody. You got to be willing to sacrifice.
No doubt about it, man. That's a great way to end your call, because I think you just hit the nail on the head, Kurt. Alabama's not for everybody, because you got to be able to be a good teammate. They want you to hand the football to the official and act like you've been there before. They want you to go to class,
Exactly.
And we all make mistakes. I mean, look at Mac Jones, he made a mistake. He got a DUI, but you know what? The one thing that I can tell you about Nick Saban is that he's going to stick by people and make them better humans. And I mean, look at Mac now, you can just tell he's just matured as a person, far beyond being able to throw a good deep ball. And I'm sure that having to deal with everything that goes into getting a DUI as a student at Alabama, as a football player, wondering if you're going to get kicked off the team. I'm sure he thought he was going to get kicked off the team. And lo and behold, he did everything that you have to do to learn from a bad mistake. And he's a good chance he wins the Heisman this year. And maybe a championship. So we'll see.
How do I get that the $75 how do I pay to get the membership to the Crimson Tide?
Oh yeah, that's a great deal. Just email Kyle at BamaInsider.com, and he'll take care of you. And yeah, if for those of you guys that are out there right now, this is you talk about a great time to kind of kill two birds with one stone. As we say in the shopping business, you can get for $75, you get a membership to BamaInsider.com, and that's for an entire year. So you could keep it or give it to someone else, and then they will send you a $75 gift card to the Nike store, Nike.com. So Kyle will take care of the details on that, and just email Kyle at BamaInsider.com. Kurt, man, I appreciate your call tonight. Roll Tide.
All right, man. All right, I appreciate it, man.
Call back. See ya. Yeah, great point there. All right, one more call tonight, guys, and we're going to wrap it up. I know I've had a good time talking football with you. And again, appreciate all of you that have been with us tonight. Give us the thumbs up. Subscribe to the Bama Insider YouTube channel. I'm watching the chat, so I see that there are not all Alabama fans on there, but no matter who you pull for, we really appreciate you being here tonight. Who's on the phone and where are you calling from?
Hey, Mick, Tim Bryce calling back. I hate to bother you, but
no.
Logistically, if Nick is quarantined till December 4, how do you think he gets down to Baton Rouge on the 5th? Are they just going to Learjet him down there?
I love that. Is that your guitar?
Yeah, I'm playing.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that. Look, I
play a little.
Yeah, I like that, man. They're the first caller that's ever called on any of my shows and picked a guitar, but I come from a musical family, so I do appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do. I think what will happen is that Nick Saban will take that same private jet that he uses to go anywhere to look at recruits and any of the other stuff he has to do to get to the football game. So I'm guessing the team will probably go once. Normally they go, I would say maybe a little earlier. When I was working for the Crimson Tide Sports Network, occasionally we'd run into Nick Saban in the airport, going from place to place, maybe checking out recruiting. I was mostly doing basketball, and
right.
And yeah, I mean, and he just had this little plane. I mean, smooth little plane would just come and boom, he'd go off, So I'm guessing that's how he'll get there. I'm just glad and just continue to pray for his health because, COVID's a real deal for older people and and sometimes younger people too. But most of the time it's, older people. You really have to be careful with it. And, I was just like, hey, I didn't want him to be, like Joe Diffie and some other people that, you've seen that have been famous and passed away. And a lot of people that aren't, we've got a family friend that died from COVID less than 2 weeks ago. So it's something that's bigger than football and all that stuff, but I think he's going to be fine. It seems to be mild symptoms from what everyone's telling us. And he's expecting to be down there I would love it for him to be there. I mean, look at the graphic that Kyle made for the show. I mean, against Ed Orgeron. Well, Tim, man, thanks. You're going to be our last caller tonight. I appreciate you calling and anytime, man, bring that guitar with you and hit a couple of chords for us when you make a point.
You got it, man. Love the show. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, and roll Tide. All right, guys. Well, look, that does it for our Sunday night conversation. Again, appreciate everyone that took time out to hang with us tonight. We've had, hundreds of people join us, and I just would hope that, with 240 on here right now, we get 240 thumbs up, subscribers. For those of you that, are diehard Alabama fans, make sure you check out BamaInsider.com. Andrew Bone always keeps us updated on all the recruiting news and nuggets. Kyle Henderson has, just the inside track on Alabama football. Tony Tsoukalis is our beat writer. He's with the team all the time. You'll hear him during the Nick Saban press conferences, answering questions and all that kind of stuff. I'll be back with you tomorrow with our Monday night quarterback show. That'll be at 6:00. I'll have a round table of people that'll join us. We rotate our folks. Tony could be on with us. Kyle's on with us some. Trey Yannity's on with us some. He's our intern. It's just been fun to talk football, and we'll kind of recap what happened over the weekend on Monday night. And then Tuesday at 6:00, Kyle and I will be on at 6 for a look at the college football rankings. And then right after that show at 7:00, Kyle and Andrew Bone will break down all of the recruiting. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Again, appreciate you being here. If you're on Twitter, it's at Broadcaster Mick. Follow me on Twitter, and good night. Roll Tide.